One of the things I do on a almost like daily basis in terms of like the task I'm going to do, the call I'm going to get on, is that going to help the core metric of the company, like sales, for example, or product? If it's not going to do that, I should either do it in the later part of the day or just cut it out or try to do it with the email. Do not treat two different events or meetings in the same comport, or try to minimize the time you spent on things which are tedious.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back, Championship Leadership Podcast. We got Yasir Ali with us here today. And currently, I believe he said he's in Austin, Texas. So thanks for being here.
Hi, Nate. Pleasure to be here. Really excited. And yes, I'm in Austin. I flew in this morning from New York, where I'm based. Yeah.
So Championship Leadership, as you know, is the name of the podcast. What comes to mind for you, or what does championship leadership mean when you hear that?
For me, it's building a team that believes in a purpose and driving whole people from different backgrounds and different socioeconomic and age groups working towards the same goal. That is championship leadership for me.
I love it. Yeah, that's a great answer. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and kind of the path that you've been on in life, and maybe how that's taken you where you are today, and you know what is it that you're up to today for the listener?
Sure. You know, this is all hindsight bias in terms of when I look back. It's all like fitting a pattern, and in reality, it's a series of lots of accidents and mishaps and just good fortune that has brought me to this place, and I'm thankful for that. Basically. Grew up in Pakistan and came here to Denison University on a scholarship in Ohio from Karachi, which is one of the biggest cities in the world, to a college which had 2,000 students.
So it was a big college was that?
Denison University.
Denison,
like 30,
okay, yeah.
I've 30 heard minutes of that. From Columbus, Ohio. 30 minutes from Columbus. And I come in and I'm like, what is this Buckeye Nation thing going on? They're like, it's a football. I was like, what is this? It's like, it's a religion. Don't say anything bad. So that was the first indoctrination of this country. And I loved my experience there. I graduated kind of by chance, got an opportunity to work on Wall Street. I was a computer programmer there for a bit, and then a bond trader. So I used to trade subprime mortgages in my past life. And then the great financial crisis struck, and the mortgage crisis happened, where our jobs literally shrunk by 80%. Yeah. And either it was like, keep going, keep slogging away, or try to chart a new path. And I was always interested in technology. I was a computer science major, also in a program, and early on in my days. So I decided to kind of like do some consulting. That's how I started on the entrepreneur route, which was just a series of bunch of projects, one after the other. And I tried, don't get me wrong, I tried to attempt to get a job, except when you start working for yourself, you develop these bad habits of calling out shit as it is. And that ends up making you not a very attractive employee. So yeah, it just did not quite work out. I was just realized after like 5-6 years of doing that, I'm like unhireable. And then I'm like, okay, I need to do something on my own other than consulting to kind of have something steady, rather than moving from gig to gig. And that led to kind of launching this product about 3 years ago with my co-founder, Polymer Solutions, which is a cybersecurity product company.
Gotcha. I love it. Yeah, that's quite the journey. Did you become are you a football fan?
I am a big football fan, both the American style and the European style. Okay. And I am a big Buckeyes fan.
Yeah, you are. All right. Well, you
big time
fell in line once you got there, right? Yeah, they're I grew up in Wisconsin, but yeah, Ohio is a big American football state for sure.
I remember when Cousins beat Buckeyes, they were favorites to go to the finals, and that Wisconsin game where they beat them, I still remember that. It was the coldest night in Wisconsin. Right. It's imprinted, that tragedy in my mind.
Yeah, I think that would have been like the first year they did the Big Ten championship, right?
Correct.
With who's the quarterback with Denver right now? I can't think of his name.
Cousins, right?
Well, Cousins was with Michigan State and Minnesota.
Cousins came later. Sorry, the other quarterback. Yes, the Wisconsin one.
What the heck's his name? Why am I drawing a blank on Russell Wilson? Yeah, he was played at Wisconsin for
he was
his
the
senior
one.
year. So yeah.
That was a whooping. I remember that.
Well, who are some championship leaders, coaches or mentors that maybe you've had, and what are some of the characteristics that have really stood out to you about those that maybe have helped mold who you are as a leader?
There's not one. You end up taking bits and pieces of personalities you meet and you work with, and especially people you report to over time.
Mm-hmm.
And that has definitely shaped. But one thing I did not realize when I was in my 20s and even in my 30s, and to a certain degree, was the importance of empathy, especially if you're managing, let alone working alongside people. We get too wrapped up around task orientation and deliverables, and I was like that until kind of I had the responsibility of hiring and managing people and having to fire people. Last few years, or having difficult conversations or working around someone's kind of mishaps on a day-to-day basis. The empathy piece is something which has stuck to me, and in terms of trying to be thoughtful around what their motivations are and where they're coming from the other side as an employee or partners. And then the one thing which as a business owner you end up having to instill to make your life easy is to have maximum transparency. Whenever I've in my consulting life of 10 years, when I try to be shape or try to color the truth in terms of breaking the bad news or talking about a forecast, or okay, these are existential threats about this contract or this business, not being accurate around that led to people not trusting me as a leader, and that was something which has stuck to me. And now at Polymer, for example, we are extreme amount of transparency around how much is left at the bank, how much do we have runway left, how much do we need to do, what do we need to achieve, and it has brought the team together in terms of looking at the one mission, one focus.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that, and that makes a difference, right? There's a whole nother level of buy-in when people feel like everything's kind of on the up and up and transparent like that.
And it's not necessarily for shall we say altruistic reasons. It's for very selfish reasons.
Yeah, sure.
Of why do I have to hold the burden?
Yeah.
It's a shared responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone else help out.
Yeah. 100%. Love it. What's the vision for you? I always like talking about vision with championship leadership, because I think that's a critical piece. And I think some of the great leaders have incredible vision, and it's often one that many others can't understand or see because it's so big maybe, or so different than others. Just always curious to hear what your vision is, and more so like what's the impact that you are looking to make through that.
Well, from the pure commercial angle for the company, the space we sit in, data loss prevention for SaaS, there's a huge explosion going on for companies moving to the cloud and adopting existing platforms to work rather than building their own, which is kind of where third-party SaaS comes in, Google Drives and Slacks of the world. That transition is happening in full force, and protecting sensitive data on those platforms is a major use case. And I see to be multiple unicorn companies being formed in this category where we're playing in, and I would like to be, and I have confidence that we are on the right track to become one of those. So that's a purely commercial goal in terms of achieving that in the next few years for us.
Yeah. Well, what about personally?
Be more empathetic, I guess. That is obviously, in terms of being more resourceful for people around me and people who trust me and my family and friends and the wider circle and do better as an individual or either directly or indirectly in terms of people I touch in my life. That's all. Like, kind of, you end up realizing there's only so much materialistic things you can kind of keep yourself entertained with. Over time, that gets pretty boring. So then it's like, how do you? And then the next thing is like, okay, how do I make my spouse happy and my kids happy? And then over time, they get, okay, they're done also. They're like, okay, whatever.
Right.
Then it's like, okay, what else is left? Giving to charity and all that is all good. That's important. But I think try to spread some goodness in this world. It might sound trite, but that is the ultimate goal, at least kind of the higher ideal to look forward to.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's a critical moment for you in your life? Kind of like that fork in the road moment, right? Where you did decide that the way that you did when you were in that time, which has you where you are today, but had you, chose a different path, being in a much different place. I love this question because I think there's a lot of people listening in that moment right now, and there's usually some power from hearing how others have maybe decided or chosen in those moments. So is there a time or two that comes to mind for you to share?
There's been a few over the
A
years.
number, right? Yeah.
There was, like, obviously there was a time
well, for instance, like if you would have become a Wolverines fan instead of a Buckeye fan, you might not be with us today.
That's right. I mean, I think having it was maybe naivety where my dad had given me $10,000 and said, that's all I got for college, and if you run out of it, just come back after the first year. For me in that days, it didn't seem like crazy. I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'll figure it out. And now think about the risk return perspective of that kind of profile, going to college here and then trying to make it like happen beyond the first year to survive. $10,000 was definitely a big risk. But in businesses, I've been involved in some businesses which did not work out in past life, and there was a big setback. It affected in terms of obviously in terms of like the savings and all the economic impact it had. But it was one of those things where it's like, okay, I can keep try to fix which is broken, and realizing, okay, I need a cut, even though I might need to take a big financial hit by cutting the cord. But doing that, cutting the cord, was a very valuable lesson in terms of unless you kind of bury the past mistakes to altogether, you cannot move forward in many cases. And I see this all the time around sunk cost fallacy with businesses, with relationships, where we'll try to keep it working, even if it's a small piece of my business. I'm gonna maybe keep investing in it just because I've already spent 3 years in it. That sunk cost fallacy is one of the biggest detriment for most people not moving ahead in life, and business especially.
Yeah. It how difficult was it to, like you said, to cut that cord? I think there's a lot of people that their identity may be so wrapped up in whatever that could be for them that it's just like, now it's just the ultimate failure, or what people are going to think, and so many reasons for that to be such a hard, difficult thing to do. When I used to sit on a trading desk at Bear Stearns, one of the premier investment banks. I worked at hedge funds. I was at Barclays proprietary trading desk. So in some people's mind, echelons of Wall Street at a time. And then when I kind of started consulting, on doing my own thing, for me, it was not much of a difference. I was trying to solve problems, and that was it. But in other people's mind, I realized later on that my friend circle shrunk
people who would reach out to me shrunk just because I was not sitting at this perch. And it should have dawned on me right there and then, like very
Yeah.
quickly into my entrepreneur career, like, okay, what I do is not a reflection of who I am. It still it did not hit me for many, many years later, where
Yeah.
I was these business failures and stuff like that, in terms of moments of kind of like, okay, clarity where, okay, like what really does matter. And it's only like last few years that realization of who I am, what I do is not who I am. And it all comes down to, now I'm being hindsight biased here in terms of like further learnings I've done is the role of the ego in many of these
Yeah.
things. We have such high egos in
Yeah.
general.
Right.
Things we do are not right. Things which I thought a year ago will work did not work. Maybe there's something wrong in what I'm doing. My original thinking was right. I picked a stock which is supposed to work. I'm going to hold on to it all the way to zero just because I think I'm right. So that ego component of it, especially if you run and manage teams, you realize in a startup environment where we are, where we're beholden to fundraising and selling and meeting your quotas, you realize very quickly, you get religion in your system very quickly, in terms of like, you're so beholden to external forces in shaping the shape of your career, your life, your family. You're going to get stuck by a truck or whatever, not any day, and like your life can change. Exactly to your point, that people are arrogant in most cases around the realities of where randomness affect us, and you have to be much more humbler in terms of accepting that.
Yeah, absolutely. As we start to wrap this up, what if there's one or two things you could give to the listener that, you know, if they were to implement right away today, could help move their life forward today, what that would be?
I mean, one of the things I do on a almost like daily basis, in terms of like the task I'm going to do, the call I'm going to get on, is that going to help the core metric of the company, like sales, for example, or product? If it's not going to do that, I should either do it in a later part of the day or just cut it out, or try to do it with the email. Do not treat two different events or meetings in the same comport, or try to minimize the time you spent on things which are tedious. And that's something which you learn over time, in terms of like focusing on what really matters on a day-to-day basis. And trust me, these are all business successes, like in life successes and fitness and everything else, is like atomic goals. Like you need to have these atomic habits in terms of like getting to the good state. So thinking through your day in terms of how much time am I wasting on tasks which do not matter, just reviewing a calendar like week over week, or like go back 1 month and see how much time did I spend on talking to this marketing person which did not yield me anything. Why am I wasting that much time on that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I love that. That's definitely important and something that we could all do pretty easily. So I appreciate you taking some time with us today and being here on the show.
Thanks, Nate. Thanks for having me. This was great.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you're listening here, if you've enjoyed this conversation, don't go anywhere. Stay right here, and next episode will be coming through. Thanks again for being here. It was a pleasure, and hope you have a great day.